lifeblood is impinging on the experience of being able to zoom out from the Google map of my own reality, I find it hard to believe that anything can be universal. And yet the notion that music, like mathematics or code, is a universal language is something that's very sticky, and not without reason. It has some basis in science. The human brain hums with complex rhythms as synapses send signals from neuron to neuron, and we're just beginning to learn that these rhythms have a hand in all manner of cognitive functions, from motor control, perception, and memory. And music affects us on the limbic system level, which is a relatively ancient part of the human brain, and one which we share with much of the animal kingdom. But my question today, one of many, is what about life beyond Earth? We have this idea that music is a kind of universal language. It's an idea that comes from science fiction movies, like, for example, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. When the alien ships in this film descend on the Earth, they communicate using a melody. And that 5-note melody is communicated back to them using an ARP 2500 synthesizer. This is a melody which establishes not only contact, but goodwill. The synthesizer literally synthesizes, bridging a cosmic gulf between two very different intelligences. And this belief isn't isolated to fiction necessarily. Consider the NASA Golden Record, of course, a disc of a human mixtape, if you will, of the sounds of Earth that was tacked to the Voyager 1 and 2 probes in 1977. It contains everything from Bach to whale sounds and Chuck Berry. Connected to the Voyager probes and sent into space in 1977, the same year as Close Encounters, the Golden Record is now the farthest man-made musical object from Earth. It is 20 billion kilometers away as of this afternoon, far beyond our solar system. Of course, it's likely that aliens would take the Golden Record as a piece of space garbage. Even Carl Sagan, who orchestrated the project, he called it a symbolic statement rather than a serious attempt to communicate with extraterrestrial life. And of course, he's right. The idea that music might be a tool for communicating with aliens is predicated on far too many false assumptions to be true. Chief among them is the assumption that aliens would have evolved along the same lines as us, with the same sensory apparatus for translating frequencies into meaning. And the factors propagating sound from planet to planet vary, which makes audition an unlikely universal. And there's no evidence that evolution on a parallel scale is possible, except for the diversity of ears and eyeballs on Earth. But even on our own planet, living beings experience sound in a staggering diversity of ways. Elephants hear with their giant ears, but reptiles sense vibrations of the ground with their bodies. Bats, of course, echolocate in the blind, and whales call to each other with moans and clicks across the sea. Incidentally, whale sounds are included on the Golden Record, which means that perhaps that will be the language of the distant future. If extraterrestrials, by some crazy chance, do experience sound, then we are still left with the problem of aesthetics and meaning. Perhaps Bach would offend the palate of far more foreign intelligence, or perhaps something far more sinister. Mars Attacks.
Richie, I think these guys are very sick. What's happening to them? What's killing them? I think it must be my music.
If aliens are interested in us, which is already an assumption, they have plenty of material already. We have been leaking radio transmissions into space since the dawn of communications in the modern age, and this garble of information could tell a lot more about us to alien species than we might perhaps be comfortable with, just as a full perusal of your unedited search history reveals a very clear sense of your personhood, to say nothing of the limits of your intelligence. intelligence. The result of that is not necessarily fire. In Carl Sagan's science fiction novel Contact, which was of course made into a film in 1997, aliens from the Vega star system make contact with Earth by sending back a first signal strong enough to escape our planet's ionosphere. That signal is, of course, Adolf Hitler's opening speech from the Berlin Olympics in 1936. It's embarrassing, but not unpredictable. An intentional message, like the Golden Record, would still travel through the universe through millennia, and we might not be around by the time our message reaches its unintended audience. And if so, we may not be taking a form that anyone here would recognize. And so the function of an object, like the Golden Record, might transform from message to time capsule to tombstone. When it comes to these issues, I sometimes think of the artist Trevor Paglen, who in 2012 created a more realistic, although equally subjective, version of the Golden Record by etching onto a silicon disc images of human joy and suffering. Images, for example, like the vision of a drone of the suffering of refugees, and sent it into space with a satellite in 2012. In geosynchronous orbit, some 36,000 kilometers above sea level, a satellite can hang undisturbed for millennia. This is a sweet spot for time capsules in the darkness of deep time. I interviewed Paglen once about this project, and he said to me that at some point, there will be no evidence of human civilization on Earth, but there will be a collection of dead spacecraft from an ancient civilization in Earth's orbit. That's us. For any archaeologists who might come along before our sun turns into a red giant, these dead spacecraft will be like blocks of stone or the pyramids of Giza. They will be monolithic records of the distant human past. In science fiction, we call this a big dumb object, like the Ring World or the monolith from 2001. If there is music here, how can it be anything but an elegy? And on the rare chance that we haven't destroyed ourselves and everything else along with it, we will certainly have made evolutionary leaps forward in the composition and understanding of music. Consider the difference between Incan pan flutes and Frank Zappa, for example. And that's only 1,000 years of relatively eventless human history. Which leads us to my first question today. Is it possible to future-proof music? To make a sound which not only outlives our generation, but stands to represent humanity, the fact that we existed at all, to the mute audience of the cosmos? The simplest answer to this question is no. If you look at the only place where this question is regularly posed, again, science fiction, any attempt that we have made to create futuristic music has always fallen short. From the Mos Eisley Cantina in Star Wars to the cave rave from The Matrix Reloaded. It's never futuristic. Because, like all science fiction, it reveals much more about its present than our future. For example, musical trends are ephemeral. They have a very short half-life. Archaeologists of the future would be able to carbon date the precise date of release of a science fiction music just by looking at it. For example, there's no question that what you're about to see is from a late 60s Star Trek episode.
I'm talking about you. I'm talking about me.
This is actually a very good song, I think.
Long time back when the galaxy was new, man found out what he had to do. Found he had to eat, and he found he had to drink, and a long time later he found he had to think. Yes, think.
Amazing, right? This is the late 60s. I mean, it's musical subcultures, it's aesthetic mores, it's social values, really trapped in amber. But since we are engaged in a thought experiment, the first of many today, I hope, let us consider the question, what does futuristic, future-proof, eternal music sound like? It can't contain language, of course, because language changes too quickly from place to place, from culture to subculture. It can't be rhythmic, because our sense of rhythm is conditioned to a heartbeat and a sense of time indigenous to our planet. Can it even be beautiful? Or is beauty something too closely wired to our neurochemistry, to the resonances and tones that soothe our brains and summon stored subjective memories to awareness, even when performed by an alien? The beauty of an aria lives in its listener. It is dependent on the sensations that the melody evokes, the memories it stirs within each individual, dependent on personal history, state of mind, experiences, heartbreak, fear. This is true for all art, which lives in a place between the creator and the audience. It is a command that ignites feelings locked in the receiver, half meaningless until received. There's going to be a quiz after this for all the movies. You have to name them all. Beginning with Pythagoras, ancient thinkers often wrote of the musica universalis, or music of the spheres, this idea that the relationships between planets in the universe and the solar system might have a form of music to them that is inaudible but mathematical, harmonic, even spiritual. The concept underlies Kepler's writing about planetary bodies, and Plato wrote about music and astronomy as two twinned studies of sensual recognition: astronomy for the eyes and music for the ears. A little-known byproduct of the NASA Voyager mission I mentioned earlier is a series of field recordings of the interaction between solar wind and the magnetosphere of various planets in the solar system. NASA actually released this as a 5-disc album called Symphonies of the Planets, which is what you're hearing right now. That we call this music is a bit of a stretch. Really, it's just data in the form of sound, although it does have the quality, a little bit of ambient drone. One way to future-proof music, I would suggest, would be to create single tones generated precisely by machine. Eternal music might just be a representation of the fact that we have the capacity to perceive and the intelligence to recreate discrete slices of the resonant spectrum. Of course, like the symphonies of the planets, the only thing separating this from just pure mathematics, physics, would be the engine that we use to perceive it, through the ears rather than the eyes or the brain. This would make it a catch-22, because it would be the antithesis of music as we normally experience it. It would contain no emotional information, and it would not be pleasing to listen to. As in any fine art, music is defined by its subjective qualities. What counts cannot be counted. And yet, the idea that objective music somehow represents the future is very common and hangs around in our perceptions of it, again through science fiction, through the shorthand of electronic music, which has always served to represent the future in film. Sci-fi soundtracks like this, the Forbidden Planet soundtrack, the first ever entirely electronic film score, or Wendy Carlos's famous Switched on Bach from Clockwork Orange, these are dominated by synthesized tones, by electronic tones. And it's no coincidence that Steven Spielberg, when choosing a language to communicate with aliens in the Close Encounters film, would choose the language of the synthesizer. Because can you imagine an alien walking down from its ship playing a guitar? It's possible, but it's not common in science fiction that we make. And there's a reason why Spock's Vulcan lute has always seemed so ridiculous. Because analog instruments are in a perpetual journey towards entropy. And they are too likely to generate tones which shade into one another, which are deeply ambiguous. They're not precise, and in our imagination of the future, things are either complete chaos or complete precision, right? A future in which things have been pushed into perfect clarity. All this being said, I do believe that the music of the future will be electronic, but not because electronic music has a more clear relationship to the future, a more one-to-one relationship with sound input, or because the future has no space for ambiguity. The future has plenty of space for ambiguity, as I hope we will learn today. No, I believe the future of music will be electronic because I believe the ears of the future will not be entirely human. I've so far ignored the other intelligence with which we might communicate using a universal language, like music. Not the minds belonging to aliens we will likely never meet, but those belonging to the artificial intelligences we are already creating. If it's reasonable to believe that artificial intelligence will soon outpace our own. And even if we're not ready for it, plenty of people, very intelligent people, are already actively developing for this future. In our lifetimes, we will see the blossoming of artificial intelligence, whose drives and abilities will outpace our own, likely breaking past the boundaries of biological limitation. It's even possible they will develop self-awareness, or a process indistinguishable from self-awareness, which is the same thing. Artificial intelligence will be in many ways indistinguishable from our own. For one, with the advent of nanotechnology and other forms of cybernetic enhancement, it may become quite difficult to objectively place the line between human and machine. And we are, after all, already cyborgs, sheltering our dreams and desires in the cloud and in external devices. But AI is also destined to resemble its makers. It will be trained, and is being trained like a child, on everything we know to be true, with processes that model the way that we learn, the way that we think. As we move towards synthesis with machines, extending the range of our senses and altering the fundamental quality of our minds, it's certain that our tastes will change, that our media will change, is already changing. Perhaps we might develop a taste for the music made by machines. Why not? After all, the artificial intelligences of our relatively near future will have education that is rooted in the cultural products of humankind. And it will share DNA, the same hardware, languages, and algorithms with electronic music. It will have a networked relationship with devices and sounds capable of generating sound. And with minds operating at quantum speeds, it will have infinite relative time for musical endeavor. And of course, separated from our biological